Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Live Thrivingly podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Hall, and today is an extraordinary day because we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. Please help me extend a warm welcome to the amazing Reverend Benjamin Norman. Ben, it's an absolute honor to have you here, and I can't wait to dive into your incredible journey of personal growth, family, and making a lasting impact with your company, Ascendancy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Ben?
Man, I'm feeling I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I feel like this is an incredible gift and an opportunity to be able to have this space with you today. And you know what? I'm just gonna just throw this right out here. Like, you are a bright, shining soul. And the thing that has struck me about you since day one is that, man, if I had like even half the spiritual development that Jackson has right now, at when I was your age, I think life would be very different. Not that I'm saying I want to go back and change things. So it's been amazing just to witness you and the things that you do and the things that you're into, and I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Ben. So, yeah, Ben, your life story is a testament to strength, growth, and purpose. We'd love to hear more about the significant milestones and turning points that shaped your journey and brought you to where you are today. Can you take us on a deeper dive into the experiences, challenges, or moments of clarity that have played a pivotal role in shaping your path?
Okay, so that is quite that is quite the question, and it's been quite the journey. So I'm probably going to be talking for a little while here. Hopefully that's okay. Um, because it's kind of like, all right, so where am I today? How did I get here? And what what did I do, to get to the place that I'm at today? So this this is going to be probably pretty deep, and I'll try my best to sort of share where I'm at. So I'm going to start with where I'm at today. Okay, so I have stepped completely outside of what we consider to be reality. The stuff that you see and hear inside of the world that you live in. We've got bodies. Um, you can see that I'm physically here. There's a representation of me. I look different than you. And so there's this great illusion that's happening. And what I mean by that, just to be distinct, is that the illusion is supposed to happen. So it's not to say that none of this is real and it's not really here and all this stuff and what we perceive isn't there. It's to say, no, this is part of the experience. But the place that I'm at today, everyday life feels like I'm Neo jacking into the Matrix. Okay. I'm talking about, you wake up in the morning, you kick the grogginess off, you make your first cup of coffee, you drink it, you check your email, you get ready for the day, you go into your daily practice, and then you're off to work or off to your business or whatever the case may be. For all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, that is literally jacking into the Matrix. Now, that's kind of crazy. People are going to be like, wow, that's really strange, da 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 da. But just hear me out for a second. Inside of the world, before you get pulled out of this matrix, so to speak, by the way, I think the four Matrix movies is the ultimate parallel to spirituality and life, and just there's so much there. Um, but today, it's like when you step into a life that's rooted in faith, you step out of the constructs that most people operate by. In fact, 85% of the human population is right now sleeping. They have not risen above the level of consciousness that puts them in service to others. They're stuck inside of this world of their own individual concerns. You know, they're trapped inside of the darkness of how come I can't make it, and why can't I figure this out, and why can't I get along with my significant others, and why can't I show up as the dad I know myself to be, and why is my business failing and we're not getting anywhere, and why and why and why and why and all these things. And so it's like when you think about this, you see that most people are lost truly inside of the darkness. Now, a little bit about my background, spirituality. So I'm an interfaith minister. I study all different kinds of spirituality. You know, growing up, I was Protestant. My parents early on, so I went to a Methodist church. There was a part of time where I went to an evangelical Christian church for a little while. There was a period of time where there was some other church I can't remember the name of. And then when I got to my teenage years, my mother, who's been an absolute beacon of spirituality in my life, my entire life, decides to join a Native American medicine society. And so we went from going to church to going to powwows and traveling around. This was during my teenage years. My parents had an actual 16-foot teepee. We would go to these powwows. We would participate in them. She would do the drum circle. I have full-blown Native American fancy dance regalia, and I would dance around the circle. And it was that point where, you know, I don't remember if my mom told me this, but I remember, this is how I remember it. And what I remember is my mom saying that your journey, your spiritual journey is yours to decide and yours alone. And I'm not going to force you to go and do anything spiritually. And so when that happened, that opened the door up to a whole world of exploration for me. My mom also at the time had a shop in downtown North Attleboro, Massachusetts called the Mother's Milk. And it was like a metaphysical holistic shop, you know, where she could sell her artwork and all kinds of things, you know, from incense to jewelry to crystals to books. And I remember going into my mom's shop and just like, you know, looking at just like all of the things there. And there was a period in my teenage years where I studied Celtic shamanism and Druidism, always feeling connected to the woods and the forests. You know, our heritage in my family goes back to that time. That's where we came from. So there was a period in my life where, you know, I was really into, you know, metaphysical things and stuff like that. And then there was a period in my 20s where I fell into darkness and there was no spirituality. Faith was completely absent inside my life. You know, I was at that stage where I think when I was your age at 25, I was just trying to figure out like, what is it I'm supposed to do here? You know, it doesn't feel like my life is going in any kind of direction. I was waiting tables full time in a restaurant. I had no sense of self-confidence whatsoever, no feeling of self-worth. Like I felt really insignificant, to the point where people I went to high school with would come in and eat and I was, you know, waiting at TGI Fridays at the time. And here they are having a great time. And here I am serving them food, and just that experience of like, you know, guilt and shame to say I haven't amounted to anything yet. I was in and out of college for about 10 years, you know, because I fell into this, you know, thing that society tries to tell you that you need to go get a degree. Like if you're going to go have a job and build something and get somewhere, then you need to graduate college and you need to have a degree. It's like, what the heck? So I was in and out of school, constantly going back to that, trying to figure it out. And so, I mean, the story, there's like a life path that goes down the career line, but I'll stick on the spiritual side. It was right around 2012. And my life was completely in shambles, completely in shambles. Looking back, it's kind of emotional because it's like, man, I just see myself so lost. I was married, trying to figure out how to provide for my wife at the time, our two daughters, and my oldest son, who I legally adopted because I couldn't bear to think about what it would be like to grow up without a dad. And I'll come back to this later. But we're there and we're in this, and I mean, at that point in life had a wild twists and turns, just inside of that journey. But there I was, and it was a Saturday night, and my ex-wife was at this weekend seminar, and I pretty much knew that she's going to come home. And when she comes home that night, it was a Saturday night, and she was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, pretty much the whole weekend. And I sat there, the kids were sleeping, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm drinking beer, and I'm doing what I do every single night of my life. I'm playing video games with my guy friends. Um, and I'm sitting there and I just got this feeling like she's going to come home and that's it. She's going to tell me she doesn't need me anymore. She's going to divorce me and that's it. And I know it's coming. And so here we go. So some time goes by, the door opens, it's dark. She comes walking in. She goes, I need to talk to you. Inside, I'm like, here we go. This is it. This is it. This is it. It's happening. Sit down on the couch, and she proceeds to tell me I've done nothing but set out to destroy you inside of our marriage since we've been married. And my jaw hit the floor. I could not believe the words that were coming out of her mouth because this is how I felt, the entire time I was married. Again, still now, much older, wasn't, I was in my late 20s, early 30s at this point, and still did not have a sense of self-worth, still did not have a feeling of connection to anything. I was a guy, believe it or not, back then, who there's no way in chance you and I would be even speaking. I was somebody who would not talk to anybody if they had a title. If they were a director or a VP or a CEO, there's no chance we're having a conversation because in my mind, I'm thinking, what am I ever going to say to this person? Like I've got nothing to offer them. I'm barely making it and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and that's basically it. If somebody owned a house, same kind of thing. I just had just no sense of worth at all. And that's a terrible place to sit. It's a terrible, terrible place to sit, completely lost, just inside of what I call the darkness, the force that's trying to divide us. um, you know, where the story turns is I find myself at the same place that she went to, and a woman gets up and she says, "I work 2 jobs, and when I come home, I yell at the kids, and I don't spend any time with my husband." Because I've been busting my butt and I think that I deserve a break and I just need time to decompress. And what I see now is that I'm not spending any time with my kids and I'm not spending any time with my husband. And I've completely created this. And now I'm sitting here as a spectator watching this woman share this. And I'm like, this is my life right now. I was working 2 jobs, just trying to make it, like trying to provide for my family, and really just lost. And so I signed myself up for this thing. I had no idea how I was going to make it happen. It was $550 at that time. Like there was no $550. And I go to this thing, and what ends up happening is I got shown finally, the thing that's been stopping me. And I have not told this story in a little while, but as I'm telling it now, I see that it was guidance that I received. And the thing I was shown is that fear, my fear inside my life was running my life. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of not being good enough. I was afraid of anybody who had an opinion. I was afraid of making mistakes, saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, making the wrong move. I was afraid of sharing how I feel, what I'm dealing with, what I'm experiencing. Instead, burying it all inside and funneling it into alcohol and smoking cigarettes and playing video games night after night, and a slew of all kinds of other destructive addictions. Nothing terrible, in terms of some of the things that are out there, but just I was living a life of escaping from my fear. Can you relate to that? Like, is this? And so it's like you're sitting inside that place and you see it, and it's like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Why am I living like this? And I had this amazing spiritual release that weekend, and I remember this very vividly. I go back to work on that following Monday. And at that time, I was a software developer, and my life was hiding inside my cubicle, writing code, scared shitless that if they find out I have no idea what I'm doing, they're going to fire me. And if they fire me, then I can't provide for my family. And I mean, the list of just dark thoughts just race away from there. I sat down that Monday morning and I started writing code, and it was like the code is just flowing through me onto the screen. It changed the way that I was developing software, the way that I saw things. Like literally, I was blind and the blindness was removed. And that was the very start of my ascension to where I am today. And that happened back in 2012. Okay. So the next milestone, that was probably the first milestone. The next milestone is later on. I am starting to awaken to something. I don't know what yet, but I had this very weird experience of like, I'm asking for things and things are happening. I'm praying for something and it's showing up. I'm literally asking God and it's happening. And it was happening pretty much on demand. Like, and the things that I was receiving back from the universe was greater than what I had even asked for. So it's not even that I asked for something and I got what I asked for. Asking, you shall receive. It was I asked for something and what came back was beyond my wildest imagination. I mean, and it was stupid, silly things now looking back. Like, God, I need a $20,000 increase in pay and I need it by next Friday, right? Like, kind of a silly thing, but early on in my spiritual development, like, that's what I was asking for. So guess what happened? By that next Friday, I had like a $45,000 increase in pay came through with a variable, percentage on top of it. So it's like income could go into the stratosphere inside of the role of the business I was working on. So I I started to awaken to this, this experience. And the very first person I talked to about this is one of my best friends, and he is a Catholic theology professor at a Catholic school. And I say that and laugh because, you probably conjure up this image of what a Catholic theology professor looks like. And I assure you, he looks like none of that. He is like by far one of the most interesting like men in my entire, spectrum of people that I know, because of the depth of his knowledge and the fact that he's studied like all different kinds of things. So I started talking to him about what it means to be Catholic and explaining to him these experiences. And at the time, to me, it was me working with the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit in this communion, in this conversation. It's like we're literally building and shaping reality together, which is not something that you really kind of read about in the Bible. It was a very different experience. So I go down this line. Next milestone is I did the RCIA, the Right to Catholic Initiation for Adults, joined the Catholic Church, and I was there for a couple of years, and continued to walk down my path. At the time, though, there was all kinds of things coming out about the church with, you know, people who've fallen into darkness, because it is human beings who are priests and bishops, running the place, and you're hearing all kinds of stories of child abuse and things like that. And it was like, I just can't. I cannot be associated with this. Like, I'm having a real hard time. And on top of that, I was having difficulty reconciling some of the things that I was hearing against what I was experiencing. And now, don't misinterpret this as me trying to say that, Catholicism is wrong and the Catholic Church is evil and all this stuff, because I got a lot of friends in the spiritual realm who are very quick to throw stones. The people inside the church that I was connected to and that I knew were absolutely amazing people. The deacon of my church was a very, very solid spiritual mentor for me. And he's somebody I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. But it got to the point where we're further on in the journey. And I couldn't get past this certain thing in my life. It's like my life hit this threshold. And it's like, no matter what I do, my marriage is not getting better. And it's like, I was praying night after night, like, God, this cannot be what life is like. This can't be. This cannot be what marriage is like. There has to be more than this. I've done everything. I've gone to therapy. I've gone to counseling. I've changed myself so many freaking times. It's not funny. It's to the point now where it's like, now I'm doing literally everything inside the home on top of working a full-time job, on top of a part-time job, it's like, and even creating an environment for, my wife to come and go as she pleases and to do whatever she wants. And I still am not having the relationship and the connection and the love that I know that is possible inside of this, right? So I couldn't get past this point. I was stuck, and I was stuck here for 6 years. 6 years I was stuck in this place of like, things are not changing, they're not getting better. Something is in the way. You can feel it. I could feel it. There's something blocking the two of us from connecting, and I don't know what it is. And it got to this point where, of course, it was shared with me that there was infidelity in the marriage, and that was shared with me. Now, just a quick side note: I have a very wonderful co-parenting relationship with my ex-wife. It's taken a lot to get there, so this is not a slight against her at all. I do not blame her for what happened, because what I saw was that I was 100% responsible for my relationship. She also is 100% responsible for hers. But there's a very different dynamic that happens between masculine and feminine energy. And up until the point that I realized this, and it took me years later, that's when I discovered the entire time I was treating and expecting my ex-wife to operate like masculine energy. I was treating her like she was a dude. I was holding her to the same masculine kind of standards. Like, you've got to honor your word and do what you say and stick to your commitments. And, I was holding her to, whether what she was saying was true or not true or this or that. And like, putting my feminine energy wife into a masculine energy based construct, of course, that doesn't work. And there's no attraction there, none whatsoever. So the story kind of goes on, but the place that I was blocked was leaving. Like, it just got to this place. It's like, okay, I knew in my heart for a long time that this was over. This was dead. It's not going anywhere. And we've tried everything, and it's like, okay, well, do you give up in life? Do you quit? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's like, it just got to this place where it was like, okay, I know in my heart, I don't want to be here. And God would not, the universe would not let me advance beyond this point. One night I came home in the morning, and she asked me, it was actually on my birthday. She said, "Are you even in this marriage anymore?" And I said, "No, I'm not. In fact, I want a divorce. I think we'd be great co-parents, but I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore." And I left. That rocked my world. There's way more to the story than this. It goes way deeper. There are so many different plot twists and things that happen inside of this that, you know, is beyond probably the space we have today. But that was the first time, the very first time God gave me a very direct message. And when I say God, I mean universe, source, spirit, whatever you map to. Like, I don't care what you call it. To me, it's all expressions of the same thing. You know, I got very direct guidance. Go, go. This was against my fear of divorce. This was against my fear of having to tell people that I had a failed marriage. This was going against my fear of what happens to the finances financially, what happens to our children. This was going against pretty much all of the fear and darkness inside of me. The light said, "You need to go." I said, "Okay." And so I went. And that was the very first time my life was transformed because I simply followed what I was told. So the journey goes on from here. I've been talking for quite some time now, so I can continue, or I'll just leave it to you. If you'd like me to go, that's fine.
Wow, Ben, thank you so much for the depth of your share and for pulling through all those threads of the past and where you are now. I really honor your vulnerability in that share, and I think many people out there can either relate or from a personal standpoint or at least a family standpoint of witnessing these dynamics. And I love that you illuminated the differences in the energies of the masculine and feminine, as well as just some of those internal things that you struggled with throughout the time with fear and not being enough. And I know we've chatted a lot about how that goes back to a lot of the roots of our individual work uh, when it comes to liberating and becoming the fullest expression of ourselves.
Yeah. So this is where the story gets wild. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to share it as it is, and I'll leave you to, uh, you know, to listen and take from it what, you know, what you want, and to your listeners as well. So life goes on, and the way that I actually got married to my wife was that my ex and I decided to open up our marriage, or we were approached by another couple to open up our marriage to another couple because their marriage was failing. At that time, I was like, there is no way I'm going to do this. It's not going to happen. It goes against everything I believe in. It's not in alignment with my principles. It's not in alignment with everything. Okay. So what ends up happening, and this was after I was introduced to this other couple. And so what happened was I met my wife, and she sits down, and we had the most unbelievably spiritually connected conversation the very first night we met. I'm talking to like the nth degree of spiritual connection. Like, you probably have met these people in your life. If not, I pray that you do. There's a synchronicity that happens, and you're like, this is beyond anything I've ever experienced before in my life. And I remember leaning back in my chair, just thinking to myself, I would love you like nobody's business, like literally, like leaning back and just, and it was like, what am I doing with these feelings, like in my heart, you know, like this stuff is happening. So anyways, wild story. We're going to skip all that detail. If you want to hear it, you hear it when you decide to listen to me or follow me or, work with me or whatever the case may be. But we'll flash forward through a whole bunch of BS and drama and like the darkest period of my life to the point where I leave on my birthday. I say, I'm done. I'm out. I cannot be here anymore. this relationship is not working. This polyamorous thing that we've got going on is not, it's not working. Our kids are young. I don't want to, that just so much, like my friends, were revolting. My family were like, no way. You know, we had family over here saying yes. And it was just, everything was upside down and all over the place inside of my world, and against what you would consider to be normal reality for people, right? And in my heart too, I knew that like this is not what I want. And even though in that darkest period, you know, the year that this was going on, here was this unbelievable soul that I had met and connected with on an unbelievable level. I mean, it's hard to put words to an experience. The language fails us. And if you're somebody out there who has experienced this, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can use just a few words and you get it. But for those of you that haven't experienced this before, it's going to be hard to kind of map to, because I'm trying to share with you in a very limited language what a spiritual experience is. And the language doesn't do it justice, because the spirituality piece is infinite. There are no words to express it. So I leave, and I left. I mean, I left everything. I'm like, I'm just going to go focus on my career, my kids, rebuild my life, and just, you know, if it's meant to be, God, I trust that you're gonna take care of things. I'm gonna go wait. I will go wait for this woman, even if it's 40 freaking years. I do not care. I will die sitting by a tree by myself with her name inscribed on the tree, a happy man, because she was the first person in my life to show me that I was worthy of love. And it's like when you're sitting inside the dark for so long, and somebody just comes to you and they say, when are you going to turn on your light? Ah, sorry, I cry all the time. It's just part of it's part of being connected, you know. It's like but that was one of the biggest milestones in my spiritual journey. 3 weeks later, she she asked her husband for a divorce. 3 weeks later, here I go thinking I'm going to be living for 40 years waiting for this woman, dying by a tree by myself and holding my grandbabies alone. And 3 weeks later, she asked for a divorce. So I could not live without you. Could not live without you. Now, the story has a happy ending, because my ex-wife and my wife's ex-husband are also married. So our children, all 5 of our children in our blended family, spend time between the 2 houses. We've done a lot of work to get to the place we are today, relationally, you know, between the 4 of us. I mean, there was a lot of healing my wife and I had to go through individually together. There was a lot of healing they have to go through. They've gone through, and they still have to go through, both together. And then, of course, you know, in the dynamic of the relationship between us, you know, us and them, so to speak, there's been a lot of work there. But we're at a place where, as of Monday, we're all going to go on a whale watch with the kids. So all the kids are going to have all 4 of their parents there together. And it's a beautiful outcome. You know, it's not something that I thought would be possible, you know. Haven't gone through there. So anyways, that was the darkest time of my life. But even in the darkest time of my life, there were moments of unbelievable light. And so we come out of that. I keep moving. And I mean, it just, God's like, okay, here you go. You think that was bad? here's the next thing that's going to happen. In this period, you're going to have to fight for your wife's home, the home that's been in her house for 5 generations, against in the time of like it was going to be sold and all this stuff, and she didn't want to lose it, and we made it happen. Kept her house in the family, got the house. We live there now. This is her great grandmother's house. A lot of the family members have lived there on our side throughout the years and all that stuff, and that's our home. So we got the house. That was dark. That was a dark period. Then it was like, okay, we got married. So my wife and I got married. I proposed to her on the beach in our town. We live like inside of a bay, so it's an ocean beach with very flat waves. Asked her to marry me there. We got married on that beach. We have a lot of sentimental time and experience spent there. Right after we get married, it's 2019. We're coming into 2020. COVID happens. So COVID happened. So I'm not going to go deep on the COVID story. Go through COVID, but COVID had all 5 of our kids inside of our home for 5 weeks straight because we didn't know what it was. Weren't willing to let them go travel about. The other parents were working in the medical industry, so there was all kinds of risk and things there. Get through COVID, and then as we're coming on the tail end of COVID, my wife gets diagnosed with breast cancer. And this is where God really turned it on, because that period was another period of darkness. I mean, that's a huge whole thing. I feel like I'm running long on time, so I'll kind of rush through that part. But I had this experience on the beach, and well, before this experience, wow, actually I missed something. Okay, sorry. So 2018, I'm sitting at a men's conference. It's December. This is before I married my wife, before COVID. 2018, I'm sitting there and I've got a very solid connection to spirituality, and I got a very clear directive that day. And it was, you will go film families' life lessons and their stories, and you will enable them to pass it on down the line, generation after generation. I was like, okay, all right. Ascendancy is born. I stand up Ascendancy, the business. I'm still working full time in my career. Now I've got Ascendancy going. And this was a struggle. This has been a walk in faith since the beginning. My company has been a walk in faith since the very beginning, since its inception. The word literally means ascendance, descendants, and transcendence. I made it up. It's like, this is about ascension. It's about passing things on to our descendants, and it's about transcending time. And as I'm going, I'm like, okay, so great. Start filming people. It's amazing. It's an amazing experience to interview somebody who's older, to get their life lessons, to build the videos, to give it to them, to have them say that they have this unbelievable feeling of peace inside because they know that if they die, their love is going to live on long after them, right? Awesome. It was great. And at the same time, I'm trying to figure out this business thing. So I stood up a digital media company completely by accident. And by the end of 2019 now, I have like a whole bunch of customers. I've replaced my full-time corporate income as a manager for a leading medical device manufacturer. My career had gone to unbelievable heights, all without a degree, by the way, all without a degree, inside of an organization where it was unprecedented that a manager get hired without a degree, which was pretty cool. And so then by the end of 2019, we're heading into this, this place of, okay, I'm going to, keep going. And then we get through 2020, COVID happens. God's still there telling me, families, you got to work with families, but I'm consumed by building everybody else's products and experiences and programs and coaching programs and stuff like that. And I'm not listening. And then the next spiritual experience I had was, I'm running I'm out running. So I'm an ultra endurance athlete. So I run ultra obstacle course races. Spartan Ultra is like my bag. Like that's what I train for. I find my connection through physical activity a lot of times. So long endurance runs. I'm doing 32 miles on Killington Mountain in Vermont in September. That's coming up. You opened a can of worms, by the way. Tell me your entirety of your spiritual journey. Okay. I mean, I could write 5 books off of the things that I've done. And I'm like, man, I like people are gonna just stop listening to me because I'm just talking forever. Anyways, I'm gonna put that aside. Um, I'm out running, and it was weird this night. This night I'm out running. It was early. It was early in the morning, like 4 a.m. in New England. It's winter. It's cold. The stars are all out. And for me, Orion, the constellation Orion through my entire life has been there. This is all the way back to my childhood. Every time I look up and I see Orion, I know things are going to be okay. And there have been critical times all through my life where I look up and I ask God for a sign and I see a shooting star, and it happens every time. Every time in these moments where it's like, am I on the right path? Please show me guidance, and boom, shooting star goes ripping across the sky, right? So I'm out running, I'm looking at the stars, and I'm like, there is a star up there, and I have no idea what that is, and I've never seen that before. It's got to be a planet, but it does not look like a planet. I mean, it looks like a planet, but it doesn't, right? It's weird. It was there, and I'm running, and it was bright, and I'm running, and in my head, I'm having a conversation. I'm like, where is Orion? It's winter. Orion should be, I don't see Orion anywhere, but there's a giant ass star there. Okay. This is December time. So I'm on my way back. And I remember this moment very clearly, very clearly. I said, God, I don't know how you expect me to go work with families. Did you forget that I just got out of like this polyamorous relationship thing that most people are going to have a hard time accepting, and you want me to go work with couples and families and do this life lesson lineage thing. Like, help me understand that, because I'm having a hard time reconciling this. People are going to laugh at me, and they're going to literally never take me seriously because of this thing. And I'm having this conversation. And I'm running, and I look up, and just as I look up, I'm having this conversation. I look up, and I'm telling you, I look up and I see this star go ripping across the sky. It was this unbelievable spectacle, clear across the sky, like clear as day. Like, I was like, okay, all right, I got the message. And I'm like, I got the message. I guess I got to keep working on it, because I don't get it. And I don't get it. And I look up again, and sure enough, there's another star. And then it's hard to explain, but I'm running, and I see the star go ripping across the sky, and I take a turn. And as I'm taking a turn, I look up and I see another one coming in this direction. And then and then it's like, okay, I really got the message. Again, I'm trying to map words to an experience, right? So I'm like, I really got the message. And it was like, no, I don't think you get the message. A third star goes ripping across the sky to the horizon. And as I look at the horizon, Orion is rising up out of the trees. Like the arrow, like the bow of Orion is coming up out of the trees. And this one sent me to my knees. I was crying. I stopped dead on the sidewalk crying, bawling my eyes out, because I could not believe what I just heard. I said, this must be what Jesus felt like in the Garden of Gethsemane, knowing that he is going to die, and his body is literally revolting against him, but he knows that he's here to model what life looks like walking in faith every single day, and that he has to go and do this. And it was like, okay, I got it. From that moment on, I said, this is my story, and I'm going to own 100% of it, because that's what got me here today. There's a lot more after this, a lot more. But I get to this place where my life, as I started this, has become a life where I live outside of the matrix. It's like, okay, financially, you want financial freedom, live in faith. Money's like energy. It's going to flow in and out of your life. When you start to live outside the constructs of what society and the media and the government and everything else pushes down our throats to be normal, and you start to wake up and listen to your own divine connection inside, and you start to cultivate that relationship, you start to see that who you are is not out there. You don't have to go out there to discover who you are. You're already there. You've been there your entire life. So now I stand at the forefront against a $10 billion self-development industry that is trying to convince people that they have to go out there to discover themselves. And all I'm trying to do is point people inward. You're already there. The person you are is inside of you. What stands in the way of your being and your soul is the darkness, the forces of division. Just like we've got energy that attracts, we've got energy that divides. You can call it Satan, which the literal translation is the force that divides. You can call it the devil. You can call it shadow. You can call it the darkness. You can call it, Beelzebub, whatever the hell you want to call it. You can call it that. That's what it is. It is very real. And shadow is winning right now. That's the hard truth. 85% of humanity right now is sleeping. Map of consciousness. Check out a book, Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins. It's a fantastic read. It's based off of 20 years of research and kinesiology. I mean, there's so many books I could reference here, but so breast cancer was a whole other story, a chapter that we haven't told. But where we are today is my wife and I have embarked on a quest to go and serve couples battling breast cancer who have children, and put them inside of an unbelievable, life-changing, transformational, spiritual experience that on the other side of, they come out as an unbreakable couple, a kingdom united. United in faith, whatever expression of it is, with tools, technology, a way to communicate, a way to connect to each other together, united in light, and with training and an understanding on how to shed the darkness from inside of them. Because every single person right now, just like I was back in 2012, darkness had me divided within. You cannot see yourself when you're blind. So God told me weeks ago, you heal the blind. God, you got to stop telling me these things. Please, really? You want me to go tell people that I heal the blind? Yeah, okay, all right, I'm going to own it. So that's what I do. I heal the blind. And it's not like, your eyes don't work like physically, but it is. It's not like, you physically are not capable of seeing, but it is. Because when you are stuck inside of shadow, you cannot see yourself inside of it. And so what we do is we help people to see themselves inside the darkness. And contrary to everybody else out there, there's no, you got to save yourself. You got to liberate yourself off the island. No one's coming to save you, blah, 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 BS kind of stuff that you hear. Because if people could liberate themselves on the island that they feel alone in, they would be doing it every single day. What they need is they need a spiritual warrior to come stand side by side with them, crawl into the dark with them, help them to turn on their light, and then teach them to do it over and over and over again. Because no matter what, darkness is always going to come back. It may not show up in you, it may show up in your children, or it may show up in your friends and family as people start coming to you because you now need to teach them how to turn on their light. And so this is it. The mission here is to leverage a dark period in people's time as the most amazing transformational journey, a journey of perseverance, a journey of strength, a journey of overcoming, a journey where the night is most dark. And I laid next to my wife night after night, talking through her, just saying she just wants to quit. Where the pain was so great, she wanted to quit. She wanted to give up. Horrific things are said inside the darkness. And I know that there are people out there stuck in that place. So this is where we choose to play. There's many places we could engage, but the place we've chosen is breast cancer. And so now you have it. This is probably a small fraction of the journey, but enough to at least give you the timeline.
Incredible, Ben. Thank you again so much. Incredible journey and story, and your depth of sharing, and your ability to invoke emotion within all of us, and make us contemplate those places where the light and dark are battling within us as well is really powerful. And um, it's just incredible to be in your presence, and I just am so happy to have come across your with you on this path, and so happy to see what you and your wife are doing in your work, especially with breast cancer. But I know it reaches much broader than just that. I think that there was, many different directions we could have taken in this conversation, but I love that the journey in your story just really flowed out authentically and just organically. So I love that we followed that and allowed that to flow through, because I truly believe storytelling and telling our own stories can do so much for those that listen. So I hope that the listeners out there were really able to um, listen to these words that Ben was sharing, and from the depth of his heart and soul.
I think there's one thing I want to say, and that is, while it's me sharing my story and how I'm able to share my story and all of it, what I want to say is that I'm a human being just like all of you. There's no difference between the two of us. I'm not better than you. I'm not higher than you. I'm not exalted above you. I am one of you. I am a man who puts on his pants the same way you do, one leg at a time. So while it feels good to hear things like, thank you, and it's great to be in your presence, what I want to say is this is the work of the universe. This is God, Holy Spirit working through me to bring the light to people in the dark, because every single person who listens to this has a story, and they have unique gifts and talents inside of them that is currently sleeping. So my prayer and my encouragement is that my story is an inspiration to you only to the length that you use it to inspire yourself to discover who you already are. And that's what I would say. And another side point, one of my mentors is a man named Alan Watts, who I deeply, deeply admire. I wish he was alive during my time, because I would have loved to meet him. But he talks about this idea of the spotlight consciousness versus the floodlight consciousness. I'll leave you a little clue on your trail for you to go discover, but that's what this is.
Yes, and thank you for turning us back to that. back to the light within us and that medicine that lies within us and the guru within and rather than the external following following internally. Yeah, so each of us has our own perspective on wellness, purpose, and finding vibrancy in life. So, in your own words and based on your personal experiences, I'd love to know, what do you think it means to live thrivingly, Ben?
Man, yeah, this is a an ever-changing amorphous concept. What does it mean to thrive? I think as you go deeper inside your journey, you're going to discover the definition is going to change and it's going to shift and it's going to turn into not what you thought it was. You know, in the very beginning, inside of the society we live here, inside of the United States, it's all, give me my 2.5 kids, my big house, my car, the car I keep in the garage. I want a boat. I want a timeshare. I want 2 weeks vacation. I want more money than I know how to spend and blah, 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 right? The go get the American dream kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, well, if you want the American dream, then you're going to have to go to school. And first it was, you're going to have to graduate high school. You're going to at least need a high school diploma. Okay, we did that. Then very quickly it became, nope, 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 nope. You're going to need a bachelor's degree now in order for you to get that life. Okay, so people go get bachelor's degrees. Then it was, well, there's a lot of bachelor's degrees out there. So now if you really want to be there, you're going to have to get a master's degree. Okay, we're going to go get a master's degree. And then very quickly it became, nope, sorry guys, master's degree is not good enough either. You're going to need either a second degree or you're going to have to go get your doctorate. So to thrive, if it's given to you by what society is trying to tell you the definition of thriving is, that is exactly not thriving. What it means to thrive, in my own words, is living a life that you feel proud of, living a life that challenges you, that brings you to the edge of what you know to be possible for yourself again and again and again, because that is when life is exciting. It's when life is worth living. You're not stuck in the same old thing on repeat day in and day out, waking up, doing your thing, going to sleep, waking up, doing. It's like, no, the world literally is an amazing place of discovery. But you've got to be willing to walk up to the edge every single time and jump. And in order for you to jump, you're going to need to cultivate a very strong faith that comes from inside of you, not inside the four walls of a church, not inside some ancient book that's been passed on down the line. There's an experience waiting for you, and it's inside of each of us. So to me, thriving some days means I am so fulfilled today. I served so many people today. I served probably tens and hundreds of people today who I don't even know are being impacted by my message because there's no evidence of them having heard it, but I know it's connecting with them and I've done it. And my bank account is negative $1,000 right now. Okay. So imagine that. Imagine that. This is a very real situation that's happened. My bank account was negative $1,000. And I'm like, this is the most amazing experience of my life. I am doing what I've been called to do. And I've got a very crappy financial situation in one of my accounts, but that's okay because I live a life of faith and I know that money is going to be flowing in just like energy. So that's one definition. I think the definition of thriving is also having having a hold on one second. Okay, apologies for that. Actually, I'm not sorry. No, no. I thought I was sorry, but I'm really not. So my son's here in the office today because my wife decided to take a day for herself with her best friend. So he's over here and he's like, I don't want to interrupt. He's like, yeah, I can tell. He's like getting fidgety. He's like,
Yeah.
he's starting to make noise, and it's like, okay, I'll be right back. And then,
Yeah.
what's up? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. This thing died, and it's like, okay, it's okay. So, even being a reverend and like, doing all this stuff, like I live what I teach.
Yeah.
There's I still get frustrated, angry, pissed off, annoyed, like all of it, the full range of it. It's like that stuff doesn't go away because the truth is it doesn't. And this is the thriving. The thriving is learning to dance with reality in between light and dark. In between light and dark, there's a reason why it's yin and yang. It's because you can never escape it. So there you go.
Beautifully said. Love the examples, love the real world um, example of what just happened. And thank you so much for sharing that, Ben. Any last words today for the audience?
Last words for the audience. Okay. I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of last words. Um, I think what I would say is, let's see, what would I say? There's so many things. What is the thing you want to say? What's the thing you want people to remember more than anything? Okay. And I left this in a message behind for my kids. My last words are, there is a voice inside of you. And that voice has been there since the dawn of time. And it's waiting. It's waiting for you to just listen. Show up and listen. It's a tiny voice inside. In the beginning, it starts out as a whisper. Sometimes all you'll hear is a single word, but you learn to have a relationship with that voice, and before long, it will speak. It will speak endless volumes to you. It'll be the place you go for any guidance with any problem that you have. You'll never, ever have to go out there to solve your issues. All you'll need to do is to turn inward and to ask, and the answers you have are already there. My last words to you, if we never meet or for some reason I get hit by a bus tomorrow, will be to just learn to listen and to follow that voice. There you have it.
Aho. Ben, before we go, would you like to share where listeners could get in touch with you or follow along with you?
Yeah. So right now, if you're interested in, the biggest thing right now is just follow the podcast. So we're putting a lot of effort into that. It's Message to My Kids, the podcast. That's the first place. That's there. Again, I'm sharing all kinds of lessons. I'm diving into a lot of these relationship concepts. The main area I speak on is going to be spirituality, creating connection and love between you and your significant other. We talk parenting. My wife joins me on quite a few episodes, and we're getting both the male and female perspective. We're sharing our journey through cancer. So that's where I would say if you want to get the most value there, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Stormin Reverend Norman, all one word. Follow me there. Would love that. I post things there as well. And that's basically it. The rest will work itself out from there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a pleasure to have you on here, Ben. We'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you, Jackson. Thank you for the opportunity. And we'll talk soon.